Before I begin, I need you to imagine something. Imagine your phone ringing 3 days before Thanksgiving. You smile when you see your mom's name, and then she says 7 words that quietly erase you from your own family. Don't come home this year. No explanation, no apology, just silence after 27 years of trying to belong. If you've ever felt like the extra chair at someone else's table, if you've ever been told you were too much, if you've ever been the family scapegoat, stay with me, because this isn't just a story about rejection. It's a story about replacement, and how sometimes the people who walk away from you make room for the ones who were meant to stay. And before I take you into that night that changed my life forever, if stories about healing, boundaries, and building the life you deserve speak to you, subscribe. Not because you owe me, but because maybe you need reminders like this. Now, let me take you back. The phone call that ended my childhood. I was 27, living alone in a tiny apartment in Boston. My suitcase was half-packed, a pumpkin candle burned on my desk. I had already printed my boarding pass home to Connecticut. When my mom called, I smiled. By the end of that call, something inside me had broken so quietly, I almost didn't hear it shatter. Victoria doesn't want drama. That's what she said. My sister was pregnant again. Apparently, my presence counted as stress. I laughed at first. I genuinely thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. And when I asked, "Dad, do you want me there?" he paused. And then he chose silence. That's when I realized something that took me 27 years to understand. I wasn't being excluded for one Thanksgiving. I'd been quietly excluded my whole life. I was always the acceptable sacrifice. My 16th birthday was canceled because my sister failed a math test. My college graduation, they arrived 2 hours late. Her prenatal appointment couldn't be rescheduled. I learned early, be smaller, be quieter, don't ask questions, don't make things uncomfortable. If I shrunk enough, maybe I'd finally fit. But that Thanksgiving morning, alone, scrolling past my sister's Instagram post captioned, "Grateful for the family that matters most," I saw there wasn't even an empty chair for me, not even a symbolic one. That's when it hit me. You can't shrink yourself into belonging. You either belong or you don't, and I didn't. The restaurant. I refused to cry at home. If I was going to be alone, I was going to be alone somewhere warm. So I went to dinner at a restaurant filled with families laughing loudly and effortlessly. I sat at a tiny table for 2, across from 3 generations sharing jokes, and somewhere between cold turkey and cranberry sauce, I broke. I thought no one noticed, but she did. A woman with silver hair and eyes that looked like they'd listened to 1,000 stories. "Are you okay?" she asked. I lied. She didn't believe me. "No one should eat alone on this day," she said. Her name was Eleanor. She invited me to their table. I almost said no, because when you've spent your life being unwanted, you don't know how to accept invitations. But I said yes. And that single yes rewrote my future. The first time I felt wanted. They pulled up a chair like it had always been there. They passed dishes without hesitation. They laughed with me, not at me. Her husband Richard told terrible jokes. Her son Marcus smiled at me across the table. And when Richard raised his glass and said, "To unexpected guests who make our table complete," I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Chosen. Not tolerated, not managed. Chosen. Sunday dinners. I didn't go the first week, or the second, but Eleanor called. "Just checking on you." I started coming for Sunday dinners. Then I kept coming. They taught me chess. They taught me pie crust. The kids started calling me Aunt Tori, and Marcus became my safe place. For the first time in my life, I wasn't auditioning for love, I was just receiving it. The proposal. 2 years later, Marcus brought me back to the same restaurant, the same one, the same table, and he said something I will never forget. I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you every day. No hesitation, no pause, no silence, just choice. I said yes, but that wasn't the biggest decision of my life. The line on the invitation, parents of the bride. What do you write when the people who raised you never showed up for you? Eleanor gently told me about adult adoption. Legal, official, binding. You've been our daughter since that first Thanksgiving, she said. So we made it official. New birth certificate, new last name, new family. Tori Morrison. Not because I was erasing my past, but because I was claiming my future. The wedding. They showed up, uninvited, of course they did, but I let them stay, in the back, because I wanted them to see. When the MC announced, "Please welcome the parents of the bride, Richard and Eleanor Morrison," the room exploded in applause. My biological mother's face drained of color. "You can't replace us," she said. I looked her in the eye and replied, "I didn't replace you. You abandoned me first." For the first time in my life, I didn't shrink. I didn't apologize. I didn't soften the truth. And when my new father stepped forward and said, "She's a Morrison now, and Morrisons protect their own," I understood what protection felt like. Not silence, not neutrality, protection. The apology. My biological father cried. "I should have done better," he said. And for a second, my heart ached. Because sometimes apologies come, but they come too late. And forgiveness doesn't mean access. I told him gently, "Sorry doesn't undo the years." And I meant it. The life I built. A year later, I was holding my daughter, Emily Grace Morrison, named after the family that chose her mother. 5 years after that lonely Thanksgiving, I was at the head of a full table. Laughter, chaos, pie being stolen, and I raised my glass and said, "To family, not the one we're born into, the one we build." Here's what I learned. You are not dramatic for wanting fairness. You are not too much for asking questions. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. And walking away from people who refuse to love you properly is not revenge. It's survival. I spent 27 years begging for crumbs, and 5 years learning what a full plate feels like. If someone doesn't choose you, build a life with the ones who do. Because family isn't DNA. Family is showing up. Family is protecting. Family is choosing, over and over. And if this story made you feel seen, subscribe, because maybe you're still sitting at that lonely table. And I promise you, there is another table somewhere with an empty chair waiting for you. And this time, you won't have to shrink to fit.